say when you want the slides to change and just give John an art.
Oh yeah, yes please.
Okay.
Okay, so many of you might know this already, but just to recap, autism, according to the National Autistic Society, is defined as lifelong development disability which affects how people communicate and interact with the world. Now, autism is a spectrum, meaning it can come in many different forms, some forms more severe than others. Autism can be generally categorised into 3 levels, but autism described within these levels can still be very different. The 3 levels are level 1, which is the lowest kind of levels of autism, level 2, medium levels of autism, and level 3, which is usually on the more severe type of autism. Okay. So, as you can see from the picture, I don't know if anyone might struggle to read it, but some people with level 1 autism, they may show very little signs of autism. They may not even know they're autistic. Some people with level 2 autism they struggle a lot more often. They need a lot of help with many things, but a lot of them can still live independently eventually as adults. And level 3 autism is not as common as level 2 and level 1. And that's, like I said earlier, it's the more severe type of autism. Now, I'm not an expert, but I think I might fit into more level 2. And I suppose, like in the next slide, I'm going to tell you what it was like growing up with autism. I was born in 2000, and I was diagnosed with autism at the age of 3. Before I was diagnosed, my mum noticed that I often refused to play with other children at daycare, and I played with toys in a different way to other children. No, I don't have many memories, but this is all of it's according to her. Around the age of 2, my mum noticed that my speech was way behind with other children around my age, and even when I was 4, my speech was still delayed. As a baby, there were no signs of autism detected. I mean, the closest thing that could have been a sign was that as a baby, I only ever smiled at immediate family members, so that would have been like my mum, back when my grandma and cousins. But it's I hope this isn't too personal to mention. I've got a younger sister, 2 years younger. She doesn't have autism, but my mum noticed that when she was a baby, she was very smiley, and she also noticed that when I mentioned that when I was 4, I still struggled with speech. Or by the time I was 6 and my sister was 4, she was speaking more than I did. So she noticed the difference between my sister and me. And as you can see, got cute baby pictures there, just to show what I look like as a baby. I was actually, hope it's not too personal, but I had to be born by emergency C-section, so I was trapped, unfortunately. But I was a big baby. But also there was a lovely photo shoot. I don't know how I did it, because I was thinking if I didn't smile, I don't know how I I don't know if my mum was there, or did I smell like the photographer? So maybe I don't know. Maybe it might have been. My mum had to be there in order for me to smile, but it is a gorgeous photo. I do think I was cute. I could have did the other side. Thank you. So there's me when I was 6. I think I briefly remember that day. It was quite cool. We did some kind of. This was around 2006. It would have been. Briefly remember that. Okay. So when I started primary school, I managed to make some friends. However, I would often spend time on my own during breaks and pretend to play with imaginary friends. Even up until the later stages of primary school, I'd sometimes like to spend some breaks on my own. I had been to some friends' houses and invited to birthday parties throughout my childhood. However, I never had a best friend. Just more, I had a friend or some friends. Also at primary school. When I was at primary school, I had a learning support assistant in all of my lessons, and that included school trips that I'd go on. And from a very young age, I knew I was different, but I didn't know what it was. And I think the main thing is that I had a supporter in everyone. I was the only one with a supporter. I think that was the main thing I noticed. Now, where I am on the spectrum, added with a language disorder, and I don't know if anybody knows about language disorder. I don't know how to define it well, but it makes it taking in information is even harder, basically. And I think that was partially, like when I was saying about I didn't like speaking when I was speaking at 4. I think that was my language disorder. So this makes it very hard to take in information. I can only understand something if it is explained individually and slowly. And I'm also more of a visual learner. I mean, like, it depends on the context, but for example, like that's why I had a learning support assistant, because, just like, I'd get distracted, even if I did take it in, it was just like overwhelming. But that was why I needed support. Please go to do the next. Thank you, yeah. It wasn't till I was about 9 until my mum explained to me that I had a disability called autism. I'd never heard of autism. I'd heard of disabilities, but that's the first time I'd heard of autism was when she told me that I had it. I was shocked, but it did explain why I was different from everyone else around me. As well as autism, I was also later diagnosed with OCD and Tourette's. And my kind of Tourette's, I've also got a tic disorder, which is, I'll explain later on. Here it is. The Tourette's was originally just thought to be tics, as these actually started later on in primary school. Like when I was really little, I don't remember having them, but that's when they were noticeable, around 9 or 10 or 11. Some examples of these tics include eye twitching, shoulder rubbing, and sometimes jumping if I'm like stressed or excited. As you can tell, the more I think about it, you can see I'm more likely to do it. I also had learning support when I went to secondary school. I still had learning support in all my lessons. And when it came to doing exams, I didn't do it because usually at secondary school the students would do exams in like sports halls, but I'd do it with in smaller rooms with other students, and also I had extra time because I really needed it. Sadly, I was bullied both in primary and secondary school, but luckily secondary school bullying stopped a bit earlier. Sadly, at some point through secondary school, I developed anxiety with multiple severe mental health episodes throughout this period. And I still have anxiety, but it's nothing compared to like certain points. But I think the worst I ever had was actually when I was 15 and 16. We think it was triggered by my GCSEs. But like I said, that's what I mean by episodes, is like the worst points. And that's something that started when I was a teenager. So, I don't know. There's that picture of me when I was a kid. Oh, these pictures of me when I was about 13. Both taken by you. I think that the ones lower down. Just showing what I was, like what it was like in like taking photos. I actually usually like having my photo taken, and yeah, that's it. Oh, please could do the other slide. Thank you. Okay, so when I started sixth form college, this was like September 2016, so I was, this was after secondary school. I still had some learning support, but in the final year, so I did, turns out I spent about, I did 3 years at sixth form college, so I got less over time. I managed to, when I was at sixth form college, I managed to, just give into context, when I my GCSEs, I managed to actually get like passes in everything, which we were really like glad, weren't we? Especially in my first result, they said maths, and that was my hardest subject, and I was like, we were so amazed. And that was, and I also, I ended up, doing passing stuff. When I was at college, I did something called creative media, which is like doing like film editing, computer, looking at stuff to do with media, because I wanted to do graphic design, but there wasn't enough students. It just put into context what kind of subject I was studying. Anyway, I got just at least a pass, if not a bit more. But I eventually was able to start university. And when I was at uni, I was still at home. I was in 4 days a week. I did have to get 2 buses, but I was already, because it was only 4 days a week, I was used to that. And it was somewhere, it was in Didsbury, so it turns out that the bus, it was quite very convenient. It was right on the road, because it was It was, like those main roads into Manchester. It was very, it went right on there, so that was very convenient. And at university, I actually studied graphic design. And now at uni, I didn't have any learning support in class, but there were, people who worked for the university, and also people who were hired by the council. I think was it the council? No, I don't know how you describe it. I was the lady and who used to. I don't know. Yeah, so basically, like there was some outside people outside of the university who I got for funds to help with my organisation. Organise about on the course, because my organisation, that kind of thing. I still struggle with that, and even though my uni class was very small, the work was still difficult for me. Around the beginning of my second year, they were actually able to hire a learning assistant to help in class, and she was very lovely and she was helpful. And however, in early 2021, which was during my second year, I got a bad mental health episode, and originally I had to stop, but now they put me in what's known as like a break, and it was like you can like continue on next year, you continue on, but then eventually after a few months we decided I couldn't continue anymore. Up until around, I realised that university level education was too much for me, and it wasn't until 2022 until I actually started attending day services, and I'll tell you more about that. It's just before the day services, I pretty much, even though the mental health episode only lasted for about 2 months, I was still recovering in 2021. Like I couldn't do anything that you considered like work or volunteering. I was still like very vulnerable in that sense. But not too sure. I think shall I mention about the day services a bit about? So I do day services. It's 2 days a week. It's an organisation known as Pure Innovations. So they're based in different places. On Thursdays at Vernon Park, one of them is based at Vernon Park. I work there's a shop at Vernon Park, and I help out in the shop. And on Tuesdays, because actually they're also based, because they're based in many places, one of those places is actually Effroy Park, which I actually grew up going to quite a bit as a child. But at Effroy, so the thing about, like both at Vernon and Effroy, there's a shop and a cafe, although the shop at Vernon's a bit bigger. But so a lot of the people in the cafe are what's known as clients, and I was also a client in the shop. So it's a way of like, it's an organisation where, like they got something like a shop, like a cafe. Basically, the idea is that they get the clients are like disabled people who like do like volunteering essentially. Although they do have employees as well. But on Tuesdays at Effroy, we also, the clients is basically like the people who do day services. We do something known as the parks, which is basically like keeping the park tidy. Usually we do litter picking in the morning, and in the afternoon we cut the brambles. And I feel really productive there. And we've got obviously the member of staff going around with us. And at Pure, they can really work with you on an individual basis. They're very understanding and... Okay, my mind's gone blank. So, please, could we go to the next slide? These are just some cute childhood photos. I wanted to show them, well, it was kind of my mum's idea, but it's just, just to show what that autistic people, because it's hidden disability, you can't tell by looking at someone. So, just by looking at the photos, you won't be able to tell I had autism. So these are the lovely photos. I'm amazed don't know how they got me to pose like that in the second one. But that's amazing, because I couldn't have talked back then. But in the third photo, that was actually my christening, and that's where I'm wearing like the cute little dress and like what do you call it, bangle. Would you be able to go on to the next one? This is the last side of childhood ones. I've got a teddy there. He was really important growing up, my teddy. We still got him, but he's just very, like, I don't know, like, not able to really use him. He's just put away, really. He's in 2 bags, yeah. And but he was really special. It was I actually got him from my paternal grandparents. They got him me as a gift, and turns out if you've noticed in the picture of me when I was 2 in the middle, he's very thick, but in the picture of me where I was third one, about 5 or 6, you might have not noticed he looks a bit skinnier, and that's because apparently I used to chew on him. I don't remember, but it's probably around like 2, 3 years old, and it's just to show like it's like how like I look in photos, and I think it's just a way of showing about like the hidden disability, which we'd be able to go into the next one. Okay, so me and my autism. I often feel like people are too close to me sometimes, and if they're at a distance, especially if they're at a distance, where they could touch me, like, ooh, like can't even like that, something like. I also feel if somebody is sometimes I can feel uncomfortable when people use hand gestures, but like I said, all of you here, like if you're at a distance where if you use hand gesture, it just I don't blink an eye. It's like if somebody was, like I said, like if they're at a distance where they could, if my hands are out like that and they were in that distance, that kind of personal space like this. It's if people use hand gestures, I can get quite stressed. Just like I don't know, in like the personal space, I suppose you'd call it. I like to take my time with things. I often take quite a while to do certain things. I really hate being rushed, and I usually need more time than most people in general to do things, even such as getting dressed. And well, it doesn't really apply that much anymore. But sometimes, if sometimes in the past, if mum's been in the car and if she's asked me to go into the supermarket and get some stuff, we don't do this very often, but like packing like the food, that takes a long time, and like I mentioned earlier, taking in information can be difficult for me, and sometimes I can misinterpret what people are saying. Unfortunately, I can't give any examples, but we just know based on experience that's definitely happened, and that's also the reason why I had learning support when I was younger, and even now, like people at PRI often need to ask, like lots of questions and that. So when I'm talking to people, sometimes can be quite slow in terms of what I'm saying. Sometimes I even stutter, and I think I've had that for a long time, but I've noticed as I've gotten older, sometimes I get more of a stutter. It depends on the situation, but especially, if I'm nervous, I can really stutter sometimes. Sometimes I may have to rethink what I'm saying, I still might be unsure of what I need to say. I can be very physically sensitive in some situations, like often I like to take off my footwear, and because I often rub my toes on surfaces, that's like the sensitivity, and sometimes like the way I sit, sometimes if like the way how people usually sit on chairs, like I usually like to stretch my legs like a lot. It's like I used to think it was something I'd outgrow as a kid, but clearly it's something I haven't outgrown. It's I know a lot of people like footrests, but generally like I do it a lot more than anyone I've noticed. Just like whether it's like kind of sitting how like a little kid might usually sit. And oh yeah, I mentioned that. Please could have gone to the next slide. Oh, okay. I'll just. So this is our dog Seamus. I know it seems out of context, but it will make sense in a minute. So the picture of me and him, that was many months ago. The most recent picture is the biggest one. My mum took that. That was in December, but he looks mostly like that now. So, okay. So remembering things I need to do can be difficult sometimes. Like when I'm feeling under pressure, I'm even more likely to be forgetful. I rely on my mum for a lot of organisation and many other things in our home. And when it comes to chores, she often needs to prompt me, like actually ask me. Because of this, I don't have planning on having any kids of my own, partially to do because I'm so reliant on others. I don't even know how I could look after a kid. But some people with autism, it doesn't stop them from being in relationships and even having kids of their own. Like, I'm just saying, like, shouldn't be not controversial to say nowadays, but like, I don't have the desire to want kids, and even if I did, I think I'd really struggle. And I just think that's how much I struggle. It's just to put into context of what it's like, my kind of autism. And now this is the bit where it's about Seamus. So if I'm stressed, I like to go on Google Maps or photo edit pictures. Now these are already hobbies of mine, but these are the few hobbies that are more likely to distract me outside of stress. Now, we also have a young dog, Seamus, like I mentioned, and I like to play with him. I found that interacting with certain animals can actually calm me down. It's like I mentioned, there's certain things I enjoy, but only some of those things can calm me down. Like, I found that, I think, even though it's been very hard, can be hard having a dog, he's very, because I get stressed, really stressed sometimes, and I often find that he can be a distraction sometimes. And he also, because like I don't often go out the house much, he gets us out of the house. And I also love taking pictures of him, and also like other family members who've got pets, I love taking pictures of them. That's also a hobby that I like to do. Not really a hobby, but like something I enjoy. I like looking at pictures of them. So in terms of, I found that I just wanted to mention, because some people with disabilities, including autism, they get scared of dogs, but I'm actually good with dogs. And apparently, like some people with autism, they found that certain animals, although these are usually like, I don't know what you call them, like therapy pets. He's not a therapy pet, but he's like ones that are trained to like help people, but I found that, I suppose, on terms of the spectrum, I'm one of those people with autism who really likes being around pet animals, if you know what I mean. Please, could you go on to the next slide? Oh yes, my future. I aspire to become more independent over time and gradually find a job. I hope that I will be able to qualify for a long-term career in something such as a teaching assistant, or maybe even like a plant farmer. But those are things that I think I'd be able to do. But those are just the only examples I can think about. I also hope that I can live independently and even own a house one day. But whilst I do aspire to live independently one day, I do want to live with other people, because I'd get very lonely. So I think nowadays we call them roommates. I think I definitely, well, first of all, in terms of, I'm not a financial expert, but costs. A lot of things are very expensive, so I'd need to live with like multiple people. Maybe I might even have like a partner someday. That sounds very nice. And when I'm older, I'm hoping that I'd love to travel to more places on holidays based on my experience. But I don't think I'd want to travel alone, like I said, but it'd be friends in the future or family. And that's a picture taken by my mum a few years ago. We went to it was a cruise holiday. It was in Greece. It's a place called Heraklion in Crete, the Greek island of Crete. So there's a picture of me. That's probably the most. No, it's not the most recent picture of me. So there's a picture of me on holiday. Like we do like travelling, and so like it said there. Thank you for listening to my presentation. I'm just wondering. Just feel free to ask any questions, because I feel like it's better to. If we got any, it's better to, it's you can be, honest, and, it's because it's in terms of, got any, things that we think we could solve, I think it's good if we can solve something, we should, if...
Are you happy for people to ask anything?
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, it's fine. Yeah, this is okay, just, just ask anything, really, oh, thank you.